Welcome to Higher Ed Athletics. I'm Travis Smith, and today I'm joined by Paul Schlickmann, the Vice President and Athletic Director at Fairfield University. Paul, thanks for being on Higher Ed Athletics.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate you having me. Great to be here.
Well, I saw from looking at your bio that this summer it looks like you were elevated to that VP distinction of your job. Just kind of curious, from your point of view, we see this happen a lot with athletic directors will, either retain or come in and then they grow into that VP role. From your point of view, what was the intention, or what's the new intention of that role being added on to your athletic director responsibilities from the president? Or is that really just an invite to be on the cabinet and an expectation that you're going to be more involved on campus? Just kind of curious what you think that distinction would mean.
Sure. I would say a couple things. First, grateful for that, that adjustment and that recognition, of course, and really pleased, excited to be here and to have completed 5 and to sign on for another 5. I think this is an incredible place, and I'm really fortunate and grateful to be in that position. I would say when I came in, I was immediately part of the president's leadership team. We call it a senior leadership team. So that was already in place. So I would say a couple of things. I would say whenever you get this type of recognition from in my chair, and whether it's an extension or a change in title, or however you want to describe it, I think it's a reflection on the collective. I'm really pleased and proud of what we've accomplished in our last 5 years, and we can, I think, refer to some great successes and a good trajectory that we're on as a department, and that's a tribute to, I think, our culture and the caliber of people that we have and the kind of the set of expectations that we've created and how we go about our business every day. So I'm grateful to the coaches and staff and our student athletes that we have here who make it go and make me look good. I would also say my entire career, but certainly since I've been here and knowing that I was going to be part of the cabinet right away, or the senior leadership team, I should say, I've always believed that athletics should be effectively and intentionally integrated into the fabric of the campus culture and the campus community. So I've always made that a priority. I think this recognition is in part a reflection of that and how we've done that in my first 5 years. And I also think it is indicative of the importance of athletics future forward to Fairfield. So we're on an incredible trajectory. We're at this great inflection point of where we're going, not only as an institution, but athletically. And a strategic priority of the university, as stated by my boss, our leader, is for Fairfield to be a destination for arts, culture, and athletics. So he believes in athletics as a important component, a vehicle to help us achieve our strategic objectives and help Fairfield achieve national prominence. And so I think it's a reflection of all of those in the aggregate. But regardless, I'm certainly, honored to be in this chair and in that role and be part of a senior leadership team that is, frankly, the best I've ever been around in my career.
Well, President Nimick was also an athlete at Yale. I saw played rugby. That makes a president seem even more intimidating than they were a rugby athlete, I feel like. But as far as you both came in, I don't know exactly. It was within months, it looked like. So I don't know if he was in place when he hired you or if you were there right before him. So you can share that. But you both came in about 5 years ago, exactly this past summer, it looks like. And kind of curious about you. Usually when a president comes in, they have this strategic objective that the board has given them, or what they're coming in to do. And a lot of times the athletic director has, ambitions for the department and a vision. So what has the communication style been like since you both arrived at Fairfield, with kind of making sure you're on the same page with that vision for each area? And then just what's it like having a president lead in the school that understands the value of athletics? Because you said that's obviously a big integration for him with the campus.
Yeah. Uh, so I'll try and unpack that for you. First of all, you started with the fact that he's a former student athlete, a former rugby player. He may very well be the most competitive person I've ever met. And while his better half likes to keep him in check, he still doesn't hesitate to get out there and try and play. So he is uber competitive, and I think that's in large part, one of the qualities that I respect the most about him. But I would say this, he came in a couple months before I did. And frankly, was the most important factor for me in my incredible excitement about this opportunity. And I say not jokingly, he kind of had me at hello when I started talking to him about his vision and what he foresaw for Fairfield and its athletics program. And I feel like we've been in lockstep ever since. And so I just alluded to in kind of, my previous conversation about the role of athletics, when I think I've bet the best boss in the country, not just because he believes in athletics as a vehicle to achieve our goals, but he's accessible. He's a very good communicator. He inspires us to raise our expectations. He's done an incredible job of creating a collective, collaborative team framework within our senior leadership group. Again, the best senior leadership group I've ever been a part of. So, and he's very astute with this great combination of backgrounds from higher ed, having been a student athlete, and academics, very astute about the current state of higher ed and its trends and future and Fairfield's place in it. And that trickles down to how he views athletics. So he's very much on top of the world of college athletics and where it's headed. And so we have weekly meetings, and so our communication's great in terms of that. He's an incredible fan, very visible, accessible. Our athletes know that. They love that. We'll stand side by side or sit side by side at games. And so he loves being around it. He believes in it and really thrives on it. And so it's all of those things together really make it a great environment. I'm thrilled that I have him as a boss and a colleague, and as someone who, with whom I'm locking arms every day as we try and, first and foremost, enhance the profile of the university, but also, create a premier Division I athletics program.
Well, let's move to a fun topic that I'm sure is always something that you're asked to talk about or you need to talk about, is your on-campus arena. And if anyone that follows you on Twitter or follows the athletic department closely will see that you all are building like a brand new on-campus arena, and just seeing the skeleton of it from the original post that I saw, and just seeing the updates. And I think you all just had the scoreboard go up. It's looking great, and it's going to be your basketball and volleyball arena. Can you walk us through that entire process of, what's the timeline been like? And I'm kind of curious with building projects, if COVID just completely made things stop, slow down, get more expensive, and just how you all have approached it from beginning to now.
Sure. It's, excuse me, without bearing the lead, I'll say it's incredibly exciting, and we're approaching the finish line, or the red zone, I guess, if you will. Not to mix metaphors, but every day over the summer, every time I go in there, it looks better and better, and it's incredibly exciting. It's gonna have a big time arena feel to it, but it's gonna be an incredibly tight home court that I think is gonna be an amazing place for our teams to play and our athletes and their experience, and it's going to be an incredible convening venue for campus faculty, students, staff, community members, alums, you bet, you name it. And so it's going to be transformational in that regard, I think, to enhance our campus spirit and pride and the buzz around our programs. So many great things that will, I think, ensue and that it will create. but going back to when I arrived, even before I arrived, bringing basketball back on campus, if you will, because we had a long-standing stint and relationship with then Webster Bank Arena, now Total Mortgage Arena in Bridgeport. They had been very good to us, and we had a long-standing relationship, but there had always been this lingering desire to get basketball back on campus for a number of reasons. So the idea of either renovating the venerable alumni hall or starting over had been talked about for a long time. It was in its conceptual stages, and a little bit more than that when I arrived. But then we really dug in and got into the nitty gritty and developed the plans and the not only the plans conceptually and the of what it would look like and what it would entail, but then the plans to go raise the money to do it. And I think what speaks volumes about this building is that it's completely donor funded. So it's 51 million thereabouts, and completely donor funded. And that speaks to the passion that our alums and our constituents and our community has for creating something like this. So there's incredible buildup and buzz and excitement surrounding its evolution, but also its completion and what it can do for us. So it's been amazing to be part of something like that. You know, sitting in my chair, those opportunities with that type of transformational impact don't happen all that often. So this is the most significant project of that type that I've been really fortunate to be knee deep in and have a lot of involvement with, and but really excited about what will ensue, and we're going to find that out pretty quickly in a couple months when we open up games there in November and then in December. So really exciting.
Yeah, so locally here, I've always lived in Indiana, and I used to work at Indiana State University. They did a complete overhaul of the arena from the inside out, and so a huge renovation. So that's one way you can do it. And then, because you mentioned, we don't see a lot of people having the opportunity to oversee building a whole new arena, at least because usually most schools have a building that they will either do a major renovation like you talked about. But I went to IUPUI for undergrad, and one challenge they have right now is them and a lot of schools like them in cities, they have to get students to get 5 miles across downtown to attend a basketball game, which makes it really challenging. From the discussions maybe even before you got there of why there's a conception for this, was that a big reason? Is it was hard to get people to actually travel to that other arena and really extract that whole athletics as part of the campus experience when you're not really on campus?
That was certainly part of it. You're right. And, the arena in Bridgeport was not that far away by distance, by mileage. And we did everything we possibly could. Our campus and our department and our teams worked really hard to do everything we could to make it seamless and easy for students to get there. Just, given what they have going on in campus and ease of getting to and from and all those types of things and logistics, it was challenging. So we had pockets where it worked, and but over the long haul, it was hard to create that consistent level of attendance, and by virtue of that, the type of atmosphere that we want to optimize for our teams. Very nice arena and not that far away, but it didn't always translate the way we would have liked. So it was partly that. Also, partly there's a significant history of alums and our basketball history of having Alumni Hall be an incredible atmosphere and home court, and the student section that has historically been known as Red Sea Madness. So it is that part is a big part of a lot of alums' memories about being here as students. And so it was that desire to recreate that or bring that back. We did know that what was necessary was really to raise Alumni Hall and build all over again, build a modern structure that would serve us for the next 50 years, if you will. But at the same time, we wanted to do what we could to preserve and recreate. So we've taken parts of the floor, we've taken parts of the old building that we're going to integrate into this new venue. And then we were intentional about having it essentially be on the same footprint, which, to your point, makes it incredibly easy for students, right in the middle of campus, to go right from their residence hall, go right from the dining hall, go right from the library, wherever it may be, right into a game. So all those things are part of the rationale for how we arrived at this and the opening of that building in the next 2 months.
Yeah, I'm excited to see watch a game streaming on there and just see that brand new facility. And I just, the fact that you all were able to get donations for all that, that's kudos to you and your staff. Want to kind of go outward and think nationally. I believe you just rolled off of the D1 Council. That's a committee nationally that I like to follow closely and see who's on there. For those unaware of the ins and outs of the national committees, especially this D1 Council, can you share what that experience is like when you get an athletic director representative from every D1 conference, getting them all together, just what the discussion is like, and what you maybe learned from that experience on your 4 or 5 year term?
Sure. Well, I would say first off, it was one of, if not the best, most rewarding, most challenging professional experiences I've had in my career. So it was an honor to serve. Grateful to the MAC for nominating me to be part of that and put me in that role to represent the conference. What goes along with an appointment to the council is also a subcommittee assignment, a council subcommittee assignment. Mine happened to be, and I view very fortunately to be, part of the men's basketball oversight committee, and then was fortunate to be the vice chair of that for the last couple of years. So incredible experience at some major inflection points in college athletics. I onboarded a little bit early in that role with the men's basketball oversight, in particular when right after the Rice Commission had gone through its study and come out with some findings and tried to implement some things. So I was right in the middle of that. And then COVID hit shortly thereafter, and all the incredible challenges and adjustments and that we all had to endure and work through, and the adjustments in or development, implementation of, and adjustments of policies and rules and playing seasons and so forth. An initial major change in in the transfer policy, and then worked our way out of that, which was an incredibly challenging piece. And then we flowed into the the beginning stages of what we're now in now with the transformation committee. So it was a great learning experience. It was an honor to represent the conference and have a voice, and balancing both, the broader scheme of what we think is best for college athletics, with what my charge is to represent the greater good of our conference. So all those things, some incredible people, people that I've gotten to know over the years in my career, who are great people, who some of the best people in the business by their character, not just by their intelligence and what they've done in their respective career paths. So to be in that room with all of them and to exchange ideas about our enterprise and our business was, it's invigorating, it's inspiring, it's a great learning experience always. I think we're all lifelong learners. I think, my biggest takeaway is that all these people that I shared that room with or shared that role with, whether it was basketball oversight or council, care very deeply about college athletics and the best aspects of it and want to see that continue. And I think that's what we're all wrestling with now in terms of the, the next phase, the next evolution of college athletics with transformation and everything else that's being talked about.
You probably enjoyed it, but maybe you're like, hey, this is the perfect time to roll off, right? It's
Yes and no. It's that's an interesting question and something I've been thinking about, because it's a finite term, and when you roll on, you think, wow, it's a pretty significant term, but then frankly, it goes by in a blink. And I think because we were so incredibly busy, and the number of meetings and the cadence of meetings got ramped up, and part of the challenge, honestly, for all of us, was that they were conducted by Zoom. There was some ease of operation to that, but it was also challenging not to have that face-to-face interaction. So you had to be really intentional about, getting business done and interacting with your colleagues. Is a very different dynamic. So was pleased to be able to get back to that a little bit before my term cycled off. But you go through a little bit of withdrawal, because you're used to kind of being in that mix and being in the fight, if you will. And there's something about that that's really invigorating, that I really enjoy. So you want to continue to feel like you're playing a role and having a part. We just have to realize that we all do, as ADs and conference commissioners, regardless of whether we're sitting on those committees. We just have to figure out how we continue to have a voice and be part of the solutions.
Was it more difficult with the vast differences right now in D1, and basically the transformation committee is trying to understand what does D1 membership look like, just like all the other divisions are doing. Whenever you have a representative from every conference on the council, does some of the talking points, you mentioned there's high character and everybody loves college athletics, but does it ever become difficult when trying to represent your conference and get your perspective on a change that might not be good for you, that is better for the autonomy conferences versus the non-football conferences? Was it ever kind of contentious or disheartening to try and have those conversations and just feel like maybe representative?
I honestly don't. Very little, if any, contentious exchange, to be honest. Like I think people are very professional, thoughtful about that forum, and it is you have to be, I think, intentional about your role. And I think, and one thing I observed and learned is that people were in a very good way, very transparent about which hat they were wearing. So when they were speaking about an issue or making a case or debating something, and so often it would be the case where someone could say, well, let's say if I was a representative of the MAC, which I was, well, the MAC stance on this is X. Something that I would think about from my AD chair at Fairfield is this. And then, but the men's basketball oversight committee feels this way. So sometimes you're actually balancing three different viewpoints. But I found that people were very open about that. Ultimately, on the council, your fallback needs to be, representing your conference and the greater good or the greater voice with that. So it's a balancing act, but I found that people were very thoughtful about expressing their viewpoints, and regardless of what lens they were looking through.
Well, as we start to wrap up, holding right here with the transformation, specifically for D1 non-football schools. I just had a campus visit where I did a podcast interview with Bob Grant at Wright State. Asked him a similar question, but besides just trying to figure out what Division I membership looks like, what are your thoughts or concerns with the future of D1 and the transformation committee results as a non-football D1? Is it still, it's just a big relief to not have the stress and the cost of football moving forward with D1? Does it make it easier, or is there a concern of, what does it look like for the D1 brand if you don't have football in the future based on what might happen?
Yeah, I don't worry about, nor do I necessarily think about the football piece for us, because I mean, we had it at one time, but we haven't had it for 20 years. And frankly, my thought process every day is, and along with President Emick, is how do we advance our brand based on who we are and who we aspire to be? And so I think we've done a really good job in the last 5 years of enhancing our brand, Stags Athletics.
One of the coolest nicknames in college sports too.
I love it. I love it. Gotta love it, right? And thank you for saying that. So I think we've done a great job, and we've enhanced our brand regionally, nationally. But that's on a parallel path or trajectory with the university enhancing its national brand. So without that football factor, I think we are on a good path. And I think so. My mindset is, how do we continue to optimize that, given who we are, and optimizing the programs that we have in place, and how we operate and how we best serve our student athletes. And, certainly there's, with these types of inflection points in college athletics, which have happened periodically over the course of time, you can go back and track that when we've talked about overarching governance principles and membership criteria and all those kinds of things. And ultimately, I think they tend to sort themselves out and reach a steady state. This is probably feels and seems a little different. But ultimately, I think we will continue to find our niche and our place. And that's optimizing the experience we have for our students and our student athletes. And that's being competitive on the regional and national level. And that's, wanting to continue to do that.
As far as the this may be different answer to whenever you're on the D1 council and having to keep more of a national pulse versus, just totally focus on Fairfield. But there's a lot of daily news quotes, articles right now, and I talked to a couple ADs about this, and they're like, we have to read it because we have to keep a pulse, but that it makes it more difficult to just stay focused on facts and really on your own institution. And just kind of curious, do you ever get a sense of that it's like right now with so much noise in college athletics internally, does it make it harder to do the job at all, as far as like staying focused or just understanding the pulse? Is there kind of too much information, or is it helpful in that regard of seeing what's going on at every institution, so accessible?
Good question. I don't know if there's too much information. I find, I think,
There's
as
good
well,
information. Like, is it reliable for you as an AD to when you read a quote?
there's obviously multiple informational engines now that cater to us and serve us information on a daily basis. I think we all probably have, we utilize those in the way that they're best for us. I find them to be very helpful. And I think you just have to sift through that information. I use them as making sure I'm keeping up on kind of what's out there. I was in the thick of it for 4+ years, so that was kind of inherent in that role, but wanting to do that anyways, and also use it as an educational tool to get different viewpoints on different issues. And so I use it as a news tool, as a barometer tool, as an educational tool. You can't read everything. I try and sift through it, and I try and use that as a means to help keep my senior staff athletically informed, our department staff, and making sure that I'm on top of things outside of our institution and our campus and our conference, so that I can be well versed in helping our staff and athletes sort through that. I can be an educated voice in our conference circles, and then hopefully continue to be a voice and someone that can have a positive influence nationally. I think so that's how I view it. That's how I try and kind of process it or digest it.
Well, my last question is thinking the next 5 to 10 years. One thing that a couple people have told me is, a lot of the problems we're going through right now is because we didn't get ahead of these 5 to 10 years ago. So that kind of made me think, okay, what challenges do you foresee in the next 5, 10, 15 years that we need to get ahead of? And if there's any way for us to catch up and focus that far out, what are some things that, whether it's from a internal perspective or a student athlete only perspective, just what are some of your challenges you foresee coming up in the industry?
Sure. I mean, the obvious one is what has evolved pretty rapidly with NIL. I think there's, whether it's that or the transfer topic or some others, there's probably some credence to the idea that if we had gotten our collective arms around it sooner, we might have been able to have better impacted either the implementation or where we are now. We clearly have to get our arms around NIL and collectives and achieve some leveling off of that, in my view. That's certainly a biggie. There's some other major topics being vetted through the transformation committee that are important. And just in general, the role of the student athlete and the entire concept of pay for play, which is not only related to NIL, but really coming to a head because of that. So I think we have to really arrive at some better place about where we want the future of college athletics to go and what its intrinsic and inherent value is to the institution and to our athletes. And there's an aspect of at the Power 5 levels of the revenue and the finances involved that probably is not going to get reversed anytime soon. But I think for most of us, it's trying to reach and achieve and maintain a model, a sustainable model that of college athletics and Division I athletics that first and foremost is great for the student athlete, that's great for the campus community, and instills pride amongst your alums and adds value to that. So to all three of those. So I think that's really how the lens through which we have to view this.
Paul Schlickmann, Fairfield Vice President Athletic Director, thanks for being on Higher Ed Athletics.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it very much.